Cruiser, I'm betting on you.
Welcome to Something Crunchy, the Valley's #1 comedy entertainment podcast. Biscuit is homies with Blake. Blake is the older brother of Blair, and Blair is married to Biscuit. Here are your hosts, Colin Blake with Blair and Tyler Dressel.
All right. Welcome to Something Crunchy. I'm Colin Blake. With me, as always, Blair and Tyler Dressel. We have another very crunchy guest joining us tonight. He's an actor, author, and musician who most know best for playing Cru Jones in the 1986 cult classic movie Rad. Please welcome Bill Allen.
Hey now.
Thank you for joining us. How are you, Bill?
Never better. How are you?
Good, thank you. We are excited to have you on. What's new in your world?
Oh, man, enjoying some sunshine after weeks of a deluge out here in Southern California. So, yeah, just enjoying some nice weather for a change.
Finally getting to the good weather. It's about that time of year. Well, there are two types of people. Either you haven't seen Rad or it's one of your favorite movies of all time. Very little middle ground here. There's just certain movies that have a huge impact, especially on youth culture, even more so when you're raised on videotapes. This is the case with Rad. Undisputed cult classic. Has there been a BMX movie since that's even come close?
Nope.
Yeah, not in the BMX world. I mean, there's been other action sports movies that were pretty cool, but not BMX. Nope.
Well, Bill, you've done a couple of interviews. What questions do you get most often on Rad or playing Cru Jones?
Well, the question I get asked most often is, what was the most fun scene or most fun thing I did on set? And my answer is inevitably, did you not see the scenes I was making out with Lori Loughlin?
Yeah.
Obviously, it's Lori Loughlin.
If you didn't say it, I was gonna.
As a guy,
Ass sliding. Come on.
Yeah, bikes are cool and everything, but come on now.
Did you ever take your shot with Lori?
I had to.
Attaboy.
Yeah, guy's got to take his shot, right? Yeah.
How'd that go?
Misfired horribly. She ever writes a book called Date Mares, I will be front and center. It'll be my picture on the cover. So, yeah, it was more than I could handle, and I did not do well, I should say. But I did propose that night.
Wow.
And yeah,
that'll happen. You miss every shot you don't take, and it's Lori Loughlin. I mean,
it's tough to catch a unicorn.
What are you going to do?
Right. You'll have to read all about it in my book, My Rad Career. But yeah, nice. I did, give it a shot, and it did not go well. So, as it turns out, I think all things, worked out for me in the end. I've never dated a felon before. So, but anyway.
Word on the streets, you're a 24-incher. Is that true? You rock a cruiser?
No! Wow.
Just kidding.
Anything you hear on the street is completely true.
Yeah, absolutely. What's your favorite bike you've had in the stable?
Well, I'm pretty psyched about my line of cruisers I've got through Bassett Bikes here in Riverside. We're making a line of larger bikes for us old guys, 24, 26, and 29-inch frames. They're based on the old Mongoose Californian configuration, but they're chrome and gorgeous and really fantastic. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about those.
I am definitely a buyer.
All righty, we got you.
What was the pre-shoot training like?
Non-existent. I had maybe 6 weeks before the time I read for the movie and then was shooting. So
wow.
All of these guys, to a person, they spent a lot of time in emergency rooms, trying to perfect their craft. So I didn't have time for that. And Hal Needham, who was the director, was the king of the stuntmen, and therefore stunt doubling was his superpower. And so they had no less than half a dozen stuntmen for me, I would say, last count. And so I mean, I'm pretty horrified looking at the shots. You can see me actually riding a bike. I mean, I look like one of Jerry's kids on but you know, I've gotten some skills now, and it's just a fun movie anyway. People get way too wrapped up. I mean, the second question I get most often, I suppose, is, did you ever take those SATs? And I have to take people aside and go, you know, it was a movie, right?
Acting.
You know, that didn't really happen, but people, they want to believe, and it is such a great setup for what happens next. Somebody even complained that, well, why didn't we see Cru studying for the SATs? And you're thinking to yourself, well, that would have been a very dynamic filmmaking to watch me
cramming.
studying. Well, yeah, exactly. So anyway, people have their own little quirks and stuff they'd like to know about it.
Did you take any slams while you were training or filming?
I sure did. Yeah, I slammed pretty hard into the pavement one time and nearly broke my skull wide open.
Oh my God.
Oh no.
So, well, yeah, we're those helmets, kids, and so it can happen in less than a heartbeat, and then you're done for the weekend and maybe your life. So it's really you know, it's high stakes games what these guys do. They make it look easy and fun, but truly, it's a very hazardous sport.
I saw Rad for the first time maybe when I was 5 or 6, and I kept Superstar Video in business because I rented that same movie time after time after time. I didn't watch anything else, and I had to rent it because we couldn't buy it back then. And then that turned into my career in BMX, inspired me to get, you know, I was factory sponsored rider for like 4 or 5 years as a child because of Rad. So thanks for the encouragement and the inspiration. It was incredible, the movie, and started my life off on a great path.
I had zero to do with that, but I'll take all the credit.
As you should.
So what was like the word with the pros about Hell Track? Like, what that liability of a stunt course? Why did anybody were they talking about how this isn't BMX and like what are we doing here?
The 2 words most associated with that was I quit.
Like, what is this?
Because you look at that drop-in wall, nothing had ever been attempted like that. Certainly never in a BMX race. And one guy did get in his van and drive home. So it took a young teenage kid, and I mean maybe 13, 14 years old, Beetle Rosecrans. He was more scared of what his father Everett would do if he didn't go down that wall. So what he did was put a ladder on the side of the wall and drug his bike halfway up, dropped in, drug his bike up a little further until he was dropping all the way in from the top. And then the older pros, they're like, the kid's doing it. We have to now. You know, he really guys into doing that. But it's a very hazardous wall. There were mishaps even among pros. It's next level. Just to drop into Hell Track was really spectacular, and that was, I'm sure, all Hal Needham's innovation, because in the original script it was a normal BMX race, and he just wasn't having it. He knew how to blow things up and make them cinematic.
How long did it take before you noticed that the film was a cultural phenomenon?
Well, pretty quickly after it was released on video, it was a top 10 or top 20 for years, a blockbuster back in those days. So I knew people were watching it. I didn't realize, I guess, that a kid would take it home, rent it over the weekend, play it for his friends a dozen times. They'd go out and then try to recreate the stunts, and they would repeat that weekend after weekend. So that was something that just kind of happened on its own and was unusual for any film. So you couldn't know about that. So I started going to events, starting with the 25th anniversary in Canada. And it just kind of snowballed my involvement and the love I was getting back from the fans in these events was overwhelming.
If you take away Rad, does BMX become an Olympic event?
Not for another dozen years, 20 years. I don't know. The Olympics came way after. What really Rad pushed along was like the X Games and the Dew Tour and the Huck Jam and all these just spectacular events. I think Hell Track was a predecessor to all those, and you can draw a direct line from Hell Track to those. Certainly the creators of those other events will probably tell you the same thing.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I showed up at X Games. I've been there a few times, and it's just I don't know how to compare. I can't compare it to anything in my life. It's just.
Do you feel responsible for that? Do you feel responsible for like the birth of action sports?
I know that Rad had a lot to do with that. Yeah. I don't feel responsible. I was the face guy and the actor, so it was really, the athletes that made that film special and set it apart. Of course, my incredible acting had everything.
I heard you beat out Robert Downey Jr. for the part. Is that true?
I'm told that's true. Ooh. And I wouldn't say out, but I would say that he was a favorite of the producers, and Hal just liked my attitude better. He said, that guy's arrogant. And I can't imagine becoming Iron Man has made him less arrogant over the decade.
You mentioned how I don't think enough film fans today appreciate Hal the way that they should. He was known as the highest paid stuntman in the world, worked on everything. And rumor was that Brad Pitt's character in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was based loosely on Hal. Did you hear that as well?
I heard that, and then I heard Quentin do a breakdown of actually how he came up with those characters, and it doesn't really jive with the legend.
Didn't gel with the rumor. I hate it when that happens.
But a good rumor. And Hal Needham and Burt Reynolds, Burt was the biggest box office star of his day, and then Hal was his best friend and stunt double, and then he brought Smokey and the Bandit to Burt, and Burt said, "Yeah, I'll direct your movie." He fixed the dialogue because it's pretty crap, and so he did, and they did, and so they created this alliance that changed so much about filmmaking. You'd have to really kind of do a deep dive into Hal's book and the product placement for better or worse, and for his films and for many films, it adds a lot of value to the screen. And keeping bloopers at the end of a movie, that was Hal Needham, dude. That it had never been done before him.
Really? Oh, that's fun.
I love that.
Fun fact.
Favorite part about our show, too.
Right, for sure.
I've always loved the bloopers.
Well, they do that on Shrek now. They'll put in bloopers. It's not just a part of the film language that people expect to see that, and he saw all that, and so many of the stunt rigs, the air rams, and the airbags. And the innovations in stunt driving, and he won an Oscar for a camera car. He innovated in so many different areas, and I think he had about maybe grade school education from Arkansas in the Depression era. So he was bigger than life, and smarter than your average bear, and really understood what show business can do for industries like the car industry or the bicycle industry. And he sold more vehicles, either two-wheeled or four-wheeled, than almost anybody out there, with his influence. He just doesn't get credit in that way because people don't kind of connect those dots, I feel.
Right. Well, what's your favorite memory of Hal, or something you feel we should know about him?
Well, he was just the nicest Southern gentleman, and his showbiz stories, I live and die by showbiz stories. So he had the greatest showbiz stories. But the night before we started shooting in Canada, he said, "I just ask you one thing: don't be late." And I've never been late to anything in my life. I'm like, well, that's not going to be a problem. He said he had just finished shooting, what was it, Cannonball Run 2, and he said he had. And that was with Frank and Sammy and Shirley MacLaine and Farrah Fawcett and Dean Martin. And he said he had 25-star trailers in the desert, and nobody would show up on set until everybody else was on set. I mean, I don't know how you make a movie that way, but So he was used to dealing with the very biggest stars in Hollywood. He had a career of making them look great long before he was a director. So I felt very taken care of and protected by him. And he just kind of took me under his wing, which has happened occasionally in my career. And it's made all the difference in my life. I didn't really maybe appreciate it, the weight of his experience and position in the industry. I was just a young actor at the time and didn't have really a long view of what he had come through. And if you haven't read his book, I highly recommend it. It's the best show business biography I've ever read.
All right, so you're getting on set for Rad early on. Rate these factors in terms of most intimidating. You have Lori Loughlin, the professional bike riders, and you have Hal. What's most intimidating?
These cats having a cat fight out my window. That's intimidating. Hal Needham, he was very disarming. So you couldn't stay intimidated around him for long. I was most intimidated, I would suppose, in retrospect, by Talia Shire, because her husband was producing the movie.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Wasn't expecting that.
I didn't see that coming. And she played my mother, and she had been in 3 movies that got Best Picture at that point. So it's just like, it's one of those times in my life where I go, how does this happen to me?
It's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a big deal. And Jack Weston and Ray Walston, these are all guys I came up watching on TV and movies and very much held them in high regard. And now I'm batting the ball back and forth with these people on set. So
you're the lead character walking around like the biggest nut in the sack.
and I'm an actor. That's my world. And so he surrounded me by really strong character actors. And I think that's part of the reason why the movie holds up to this day is he had really talented people doing this, and there's no substitute for that. So that made my job easier. Lori, yeah, like I said earlier, she was way out of my league.
She's out of everyone's league.
And she knew it, and I knew it, and I had to take a swing anyway. But all's fair, no harm, no foul. And these movie sets are isolated, and there's a hyper reality going on, and you're surrounded by people who are working and making money and on location, and this is a very heady atmosphere, especially if you're number one on the call sheet.
Absolutely.
You know?
A bunch of young people working together, isolated. There had to have been some trouble afoot.
You know, I had an experience where I shot a movie for 6 months, and it was mostly mayhem. Very little work got done. So I kind of had that out of my system. I understood the job ahead of me. So I really, I was pretty well behaved, I would say, on that set. But yeah, there's a bunch of young stunt guys on it, a bunch of young writers who were among their own people for the first time, or in a long time. So it was joyous, and Hal wouldn't have it any other way. He wouldn't, like the reason he didn't hire Robert. He wanted a happy experience. He demanded it.
Good vibes on set. Yeah,
had to be. Because there's enough serious stuff going on, and people getting hurt, and a backflip on a bicycle. What? A backflip on a bicycle? Who does that? So this was big news, and had never been seen on film, and the only guy in the world who could do it was Jose Inez. So they incorporated his stunt into the movie and pretty much made the movie for me, I guess, and for everybody. It's just that you can't picture the movie without it.
No.
And so a lot of these elements, the soundtrack, the hair, the costumes, it's all very important to that.
The branding
movie.
too was crazy. All of the the different bike brands and the sponsors and all that. Did anybody try to sponsor you after the movie came out?
No, no, and I didn't really have the foresight to see this is really a thing, and it's caught hold. And BMX took a pretty steep decline in the '90s, not long after Rad came out. Rad was kind of the pinnacle for that era, and then it kind of trudged along, and Matt Hoffman helped get it back to where it was much more recognized.
Definitely.
And money.
It's still more like in the public eye as freestyle BMX. There's not a lot of coverage for racing BMX. That's side of beef here.
Yeah.
Let's get more cameras down at the BMX track and show that world. It's a lot better than just some half pipe stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of the redheaded stepchild of
It
sport,
is.
and still considered a child sport. So that's kind of a stumbling block also, because if it's a children's sport, these are the bravest children. And
It's intense for kids.
child soldiers are so brave. So I don't know what it is, but I'm behind it. The sport grew exponentially over the pandemic, and tracks are having record number of motos. So yeah, it's kicking in.
Well, I'm eager to continue with Bill Allen, but before we do, let's take a break.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to Something Crunchy, and I hope you're enjoying the episode. It now pays to crunch down every week because we're hooking you up with big discounts from big brands. Up to 35% off Invicta watches using code CRUNCHY, and apparel from 80/80, where in addition to 10% off using code CRUNCHY, every dollar you spend goes toward an entry into the Dream Car giveaway. Don't forget to join the Something Crunchy Facebook group for updates, polls, and the web's crunchiest memes. You can find us on Twitter at crunch_cast, and feel free to send any questions and your track submissions to somethingcrunchy@gmail.com. Now, let's get back to the show.
And we're back with the one and only Bill Allen. Bill, you starred in what many would call their favorite movie of all time. What's your favorite movie?
Oh man, I hate these questions.
So hard.
I am a big film buff, and I watch silent movies, everything up till I guess the last movie I saw was Triangle of Sadness, which has stuck with me. If you haven't seen it,
Woody Harrelson. That
one? Yeah, it's Gilligan's Island for the 21st century.
Wow.
I mean, the movie I've seen more than any other movie besides Rad, I guess, is It's a Wonderful Life. But yeah, there's so many great movies, and the art has come so far, and that's part of the reason why I'm shocked that people like Rad, because the pacing, and it's just a different era of filmmaking. So let's go with It's a Wonderful Life. I like redemptive movies. I sat through John Wick 4 last night.
Yeah. How was the fourth installment of John Wick?
I felt like I had been shotgunned and macheted for 2.5 hours. People are into that.
They had more to say.
Then I look it up on Rotten Tomatoes, and I got a 94.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Keanu can do no wrong.
Yeah.
Wow.
He is the one.
For John Wick 4 gets that high. Like, wow.
Yeah, that's not my cup of tea. It's just not. How artfully can we kill 700 people in 2.5 hours?
And make it look like Keanu's a pro at doing all of it.
Listen, he's very talented, and my best friend was Brandon Lee, so I spent a lot of time in the gym and studying these martial arts films and early Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee. I've been exposed to that side of cinematic arts. It's not my cup of tea particularly, but I get the artistic expression, and it's more like a dance or a ballet. But the reason we're talking now is because films do have influence. Films do create imitators. All right. So who are the imitators of Rad? I don't know. Ryan Nyquist. I mean the best of the best.
Dave Mira.
So yeah, all these guys that came after Rad were influenced by Rad. So that's where my taste in movies and what I want to represent in my future projects, because we found out with Brandon Lee, who I mentioned earlier, and certainly Alec Baldwin, that maybe we can't depict death on screen without actually causing it. Yeah. Maybe we can't. I don't know why we haven't figured that out. So not only does there come a psychological cost to exposing yourself to this kind of violence and becoming desensitized, and some people root for the bad guy and identify with the bad guy and his cool guns and cool cars and all these things.
Yeah, you mentioned Brandon, and he also has a following for his cult classic, The Crow, and tragically never got to see his own fame really come to fruition. And I heard that they're remaking The Crow too with Skarsgård. Yeah, do you think that'll be any good, or should that have not been touched?
I can't be a judge of that. I saw the original ones just because Brandon was my closest friend, and I knew he would have wanted me to. But again, that's not my cup of tea as a movie goer. And in The Crow, in that case, it's a little on the nose, so like to an absurd extent. So I watch Brandon's other movies and enjoy those for the artistic achievement they are. But again, in Brandon's case, how do you depict that and not be a victim of it yourself, or make somebody else a victim of it? I've gotten an awareness that film and TV does have an effect. It does give people ideas, good, bad, or indifferent, and we get a lot of criticism out here for being hypocritical, and this is one of the main places where I see hypocrisy. Is we're all anti-gun and peace and love out here, yet we love selling violence to the masses. We can't do it enough.
Sex and violence.
And there seems to be a disconnect there, and well, we're just creating popcorn movies. Well, really?
Sure seems that way. And most people know Brandon from this horrible story and, documentaries, things like that. What can you tell us about Brandon that maybe not everyone else knows?
Oh, he's the best, funniest, outrageous, happiest. Go get a beer, play pool with this guy, spend a weekend with him, party with your pants around your head, kind of. Just mayhem. He kind of had an idea or an understanding that he probably wasn't going to be around very long. And maybe that's because of his dad's passing earlier. I don't know. But he wanted to cram it in all at once, and he did. And his achievements are gobsmacking, and his friendships, personally, and the ones I'm aware of, and still friends with his friends. He was really just a good guy to his circle.
Did he talk about that kind of over dark cloud over his head that his dad kind of dealt with too, or was it just apparent in how he was acting all the time?
No, he never had a dark cloud over his head. He was not that guy. And it had been 20 years since he had lost his dad by the time we started hanging out. But he apparently talked to other people about dying young. I was the guy who talked to him about pushing the envelope so he wouldn't end up like some of my other friends. And so it was kind of the opposite for me. And just because we were so close, he didn't want me freaked out unless he meant to do it himself, Yeah. He didn't want me worrying my pretty little head about what's going to happen to my butt.
Well, you've worked with Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, and your first experience making a film was also a shared experience with George Clooney, who was also acting in his first film. You, George, and Lou, you were all starting in LA around the same time. Is that right?
Yeah, I knew Lou back in the day from Texas when I was a film student, before either one of us came out here, and we talk to this day and have projects we're working on together. And yeah, so you left out Tom Cruise. I had a long stint training with Tom, born on the 4th of July. So Brad and George, these were and have been my friends at one time. And that's striking to me because in my mind, it's like those are the Mount Rushmore of movie stars of our generation.
Yes.
Agreed.
And so, and I've kind of taken a mental tally of what do they have in common. On the surface, very little, except for their, time in history. But in actuality, I think what ties them together and what makes them who they are is they have done nothing but follow their passion since the time they got out here. And George, everybody wants to be George. Who doesn't want to be George? Well, I'll tell you. George slept in his buddy's closet for a time out here. Now, who does that? Have you ever slept in a buddy's closet?
I haven't.
No. I've had a few buddies sleeping in my closet.
Yeah, I've had a buddy in the closet once.
But I've never slept in my car or my buddy's closet. I've just never. I've always chickened out and gotten a day job before that happened.
Yeah.
And these guys never did. So the ones who are, okay, I'm going to sleep under a bridge to make this happen. That kind of self-confidence and resilience and grit, that's game changing. And then you can be way overcompensated. And now you're making bad choices. Right?
Yeah.
And so I don't, and for that reason, I don't envy these guys at all, because I see it up close and I see the pressures they're under. And I'm real happy for the way things turned out, because I could have been 6 feet under had things just blown up for me.
Right.
Too soon and too much.
Yeah, who's ready for that kind of thing? It's a killer.
No, it's tough to navigate.
No, it's impossible. Without it changing you fundamentally. Lou's done very well. You can have a conversation with this guy. He's a very sweet individual and hasn't lost his humanity or humility, but it's easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the headlines are full of it, of people who they snap. And so I get the lesson for me is I know all these guys. I see them on billboards. I see them buying condos on the moon, and it's easy for me to not be jealous because I've seen it up close and go, well, don't be jealous of anybody.
Yeah.
Because it's just, do you want to be Johnny Depp? Well,
not at the moment.
You want to be Will Smith? Maybe not.
No.
Maybe not.
Well, you've made some good choices, and I'm pumped to talk about some music. You're a musician, part of the band the Pipefitters, with your good friend Lou Diamond Phillips. When are we getting some more of the Pipefitters?
Oh man, I'm hoping to. I'm working on a music festival right now in St. Thomas. So there may be that opportunity
in St. Thomas.
Yeah, the Virgin Islands.
Nice.
Yeah,
well, that should be fun. Yeah, that should be great. Yeah, I remember you guys posted something that you were getting things back together a few years ago. Nice to see you guys are like getting some plans and getting out there. You play harmonica, and wow, you really stand out. You are a talented player. How long have you been at it?
Oh, probably since the late 80s, maybe. I mean, I started out playing a little bit in Texas, and then John Lee Hancock, who's a big director now, cast me in a play with Brandon and my brother where I played a musician. And then I got serious about it and started touring with Lou Diamond Phillips. And next thing you know, we're, playing stadiums with Billy Ray Cyrus and playing Farm Aid and doing national tours. It got really crazy really quickly. Again, it's just one of those things like, how does this happen to me? You look across at your 7 best friends and you're in a stadium full of people. It's just like, what? what the actual the music's great. I love it more than life itself. I'm beside myself because I'm about to go in the studio with Robbie Krieger, who wrote a song for me of The Doors. Robbie,
nice.
Yeah, and we're bringing in another dear friend of mine and Brandon's, Steve Lukather of Toto, and we're gonna put together a song that Robbie wrote for us. So I'm kind of free.
How fun.
We've had on Scott Page before, who was in Toto for a while.
Scotty Page?
Yep, Scotty Page.
The sax player?
Sax player, yes. Scotty Page. Pink Floyd, Toto.
He played on a CD that I produced about 10 years ago. Blue CD.
How funny.
Cool.
He was so cool.
Orianthi was on it, and so was Steve Lukather, and yeah, I love it.
Enough about sax. Who's the greatest harmonica player of all time, in your opinion?
I guess the most well-known would be John Popper, a blues traveler.
About to say, where does he stack up on the list?
Really? See, I would have thought you'd say Lee Oscar. I mean, I think it's Magic Dick on the Lickin' Stick. No question. Big Isles Band. No question.
Listen, I'm a big Magic Dick fan. I'm just saying there's some people that come along, like a Charlie Parker or something, that kind of redefine the instrument, you know, and certainly John's one of those guys. All those guys you mentioned, I'm a big fan of all of them, but he plays differently than anybody else. But I was in Florida 10 years ago watching some bar band, and by the middle of the first set, I'm like throwing all my harmonicas in the river because this guy I'm watching, he has redefined the instrument. I went up to him during the break. I'm like, sir, you are the second coming. He's like, oh, okay. I'm like, no, I hate my life now because of you. You know, and so like any endeavor, probably the best guy in the world is off in some cornfield, just, you know, doing it for himself. And so it keeps you humble. But, you know, I grew up in Dallas, and the local bar bands were the Fabulous Thunderbirds and Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Yeah, that's some of the best music ever. Not only did you grow up in Dallas, you grew up just a few miles from where Blair and I grew up.
Yes.
You grew up in Richardson. We grew up in Plano. How'd you like growing up in that area?
Wow, how crazy is that?
I know.
One town over.
Yeah, well, listen, it left a mark on me, that's for sure.
Are you a Cowboys fan?
I had to be.
Damn right you did.
It does kind of come along with it.
Right, better question. Are you still a Cowboys fan?
That is the question.
Everyone's a Cowboys fan in Dallas.
No, dude, I went to rehab for that.
Requires
Get out
rehab.
while you can.
You gotta cut ties.
I'm good.
I'm still on the Star.
Stuck on the
Chasing
Star.
that Star Dragon.
I'm still on the Star. I need to go to rehab. I think it's our year, though. Seriously.
Shut up, Blake.
We're stacking up the defense. Things are looking good.
Yeah.
Music in Dallas
I
in the
know.
70s. Real blues rock. Like the real stuff. Stevie Ray Vaughan, Johnny Winters.
So good.
The,
Such a good time.
All those guys were my heroes. Still are to this day.
Yeah.
And I became very good friends with Bugs Henderson, who was my favorite of all those guys. And that's the album I mentioned. We did a tribute record to Bugs about 10 years ago, and about 100 of the best musicians in LA, including Scotty Page, just showed up to pay tribute to this guy. And I was witness to just music history. I don't know if anybody will hear it. I'm going to put it out on YouTube soon because we couldn't get distribution for this double CD, and it's a crying shame, but it's going to get heard.
Oh, that's great.
No, we need it.
Yeah, excited for that. Yeah, when could we expect that?
Very soon. I handed the double CD to my tech guy, and so I'll put it up on my channel soon because I play on one or two cuts with Lou and Ray Wiley Hubbard, who's my other musical hero. So it's fun.
Always an appetite for that stuff.
Nice.
Well, we like to play a game on every episode and include our guest as well. Our Crunchtastic R&D department came up with something fitting. If you'll indulge us, we'd like to play a quick round of X Games or X Rated, where all you have to do is guess if it's a sex act or an action sports trick. I'm betting on Bill. He's like, I got this.
My money's on Bill. Come on, buddy.
All right. First one here. A tsunami. Sex act or action sports trick?
Action sports.
That's a BMX trick.
What?
Nice little warm up.
Oh, that was easy for Bill.
easy.
Okay.
Elementary.
He's like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
me.
step it up.
I remember my first new hobby.
What
Yeah,
else you got?
step it up.
We got more of a tsunami of a game here. All right, Bill. A 300.
Well, that's got to be a BMX.
Oh,
Right.
what is it?
Oh, he's going with BMX. That's incorrect. That's a sex act, in fact.
It is.
It threw you off with the number. You thinking like a 360. It's just a 300.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah, is that relating to the movie?
It is. It's when you kick her off the bed when you're finished.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Kind of walked right
A
into that.
300. Oh my god.
I'm doing that to you later, Blair. Sorry. It's on the bucket list now.
I feel a 300 coming.
Size 12 right in your chest.
Bill 300. Come on.
Wham!
You learn something new every day. All right, Bill. How about a hot dog grind?
Blair likes it.
That would be a sex act, dude. That's what happened to me. Put me in the hospital 3 weeks ago.
The old hot dog grind gotcha, huh?
Hot dog grind. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
One, I could believe that story. Two, that's incorrect. That's actually an inline skating trick. Not to be confused with the porn star grind. I really thought he was going to get that one. That's amazing.
Hot dog grind, come on.
Time. So
All right. How about the goblet of fire?
Ooh,
Goblet of
fire.
fire. Yeah, that's an unfortunate sex act too, and well, it's more.
He's
It's
got
more-
it.
More, they have a shot for that. So,
Yes.
Penicillin.
Yeah, they have a shot for that. That is a sex act, and I know it includes hot sauce.
Oh, definitely feel the fire already.
Goblet of fire. Okay, 2 and 2. This is getting good.
Okay.
It's getting really interesting here. How about an angry dragon?
Oh.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I've been there. Been there, done that. Got the T-shirt. Yeah,
We're going sex act on that one?
yeah.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
yeah,
He's got it. Tried to confuse him because there is a dragon grab, but angry dragon, that's a sex act.
That's
Well
Different.
done.
That's when it comes
The
out your
Well
belly.
done.
Yeah.
There's emotion in
Ooh.
the name. I mean,
Couple more here. We got to get Bill.
Is that like the angry pirate?
Very similar, I think.
what? What is this?
It's like the angry pirate, but backwards.
but it's at your nose instead of in your eye.
Yeah. Thank you. I didn't want to explain.
You have to turn the heat on. All right, a couple more. How about a tabletop?
That's definitely a sex act, and you can bruise yourself horribly.
You got to stretch before this one.
I'm visualizing it now.
So this is easy.
Tabletop, actually, that probably works both ways. You could probably lawyer yourself out of this one. It's actually a BMX trick.
It is.
Whatever.
But tabletop, I mean, I know there's a lot of people that are just going to say this would work for
Yeah.
both.
You're on all
because it's
fours,
clearly a
but
sex
like
act.
upside down. You know, like
All right,
Yeah.
we won't use that one to determine it. How about a stair ride?
ooh.
Definitely a sex act. But now I'm going to ask you something.
Okay.
What's a Mexican cartwheel?
Mexican cartwheel. Oh, this sounds familiar.
I should know this.
Damn it.
Tyler, how do you not know this? You're like our go-to. Okay,
I know the Mexican wheelbarrow, but I don't know the Mexican cartwheel.
acrobatics
with that.
involved.
What is it, Bill?
I have no idea.
There was a lot of things coming in my head. I was like, wow, you connect together, and we like once like we're connected, then you cartwheel together.
You just got a lot of people to Google Mexican
Mexico.
After a
cartwheel.
lot of tequila. The tequila is what helps the situation.
Urban Dictionary's newest word.
Everyone's gonna be looking this up.
Thank you for doing that. That was fun. Anything new and exciting we should be aware about before letting you go?
Dude, I'm bouncing off the walls. I've just got a new Strat, and it
Nice.
needs me to
Ooh.
play it. Yeah, that's during the pandemic. I picked up guitar. It didn't pick me up, but I
It just
just
takes
kind of-
time. Oh man, the more time
Too
you put
much.
into it.
I'm 60 years old. It's like maybe I should have thought about this in my 20s. But
Never too late.
You wrote a book a couple years ago, My Rad Career, and that's available on Amazon.com. What inspired you to do this?
I've got a very pushy wife. So it was less annoyance than inspiration. And, and so, yeah, it got picked up by a New York publisher and became an Amazon bestseller. So I took some of the naughty bits out so I wouldn't get sued. And yeah, the second edition's out. And dude, I took 30 to the post office today. People love it. People love it.
Cool.
People love it. And that nostalgia, that it's so big right now. They're rebooting, remaking, and adding sequels to anything marketable. Would you get behind a sequel or reboot of Rad?
Only, and I mean only if they ask me to. Otherwise, yeah, I'm down to clown. And there's some interesting stuff coming up.
Heck yes. Come on.
Tease it, Bill.
There's something there. Woo!
That's a yes.
Yes,
that's all I needed.
Bill, say nothing if we can expect something out pretty cool soon. You heard it first here. All right. Soundbite complete. That's awesome. Well, Bill, you have been great. Thank you so much for being generous with your time. I really hope we get the chance to do it again.
It's great.
Thanks, Bill.
I appreciate
Thank you,
This has
Bill.
been a real treat. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Bye.
What a guy.
What the hell just happened?
That was
Wow.
so rad.
Biscuit, how was that for you?
Sweating.
You need a cigarette?
I do.
Yeah.
Let me hit this vape real quick, bro. I am.
He needs a minute. Yeah.
Man, I need to gather myself.
We didn't even get a chance to play King of the Bill, and that game slaps. Hard to have a Bill on and not play a little War of the Williams.
He would have been great too.
Hey, I got a little more of that game.
Do
You
you?
guys want to play a little
Sure.
X Games? Or
Of course.
that was fun. He was so into that.
Yeah.
He was great.
I'm
It
your
was-
Huckleberry.
It was the perfect amount of right and wrong. He got that last one wrong, by the way. I didn't have the heart to tell him.
We've never had a guest that helped show their work so much. I'm
Yeah.
like, thank you.
He really did show his work, and we're
And-
appreciative of
And
that.
brought a Mexican cartwheel to the table. Like,
We got to know what a
Thank
Mexican
you.
cartwheel is.
what is it?
I'm on it. You can always just.
I don't
listen
know.
up.
He's like, I'm not telling you. Look it up.
No, we gotta look it up now.
It's like I'm not going to be the one to mention that. You're not getting that out of me. Good old Urban Dictionary.
I need to know the naughty bits he took out of his book.
Okay.
Was I close?
No, Mexican
No.
cartwheel. It's basically standing 69.
Oh,
That's what I said.
Blair, that's not what you said.
that's not what you said.
Shut up, Blair.
You had like an orange
All right.
stand involved. Like there was a whole thing.
Mine was a bit more elaborate. Okay, I understand.
It was like a dirt road, an orange stand,
Produce.
a Sororo.
Saguaro.
All right, let's get a couple more of these. See how you do.
Okay.
How about a Montana monorail? Is that X Games or X rated?
Side of beef here. Anytime you put a location in there, like a state, it is automatically sex. X rated.
He's good. See, now that's showing your work. There's like
See, that
Bill,
is what I needed.
and then there's the biscuit. Like this is his rad.
This is the knowledge you
Alabama
need to know.
Slammer, Mississippi Mudslide, any of these, like
Oh
you
my
got a
gosh.
place and then a thing that is a sex act.
All right, let's try another one on.
Okay.
See if it works the same way. Alaskan pipeline.
So you want to say BMX, like pipeline.
No, you don't. You want to say sex act because it's Alaska.
Don't fall for it. Blair.
Lawyered.
Lawyered.
Oh, damn
He's right.
it.
How do you feel about a no foot can?
Oh, a no foot can?
No feet.
Okay.
That's what makes it special.
This is very sexual.
There's two cans.
Mm.
There's two cans.
There's not one can
I can-
because there's two cans.
There's obviously a can situation. Shake your can.
I gotta get no feet over your cans though.
No feet, only cans.
It's BMX. It's when you
It's
throw
good.
your feet over the center bar.
It's good. It's good. How about a bobsled?
Jamaican or regular?
Oh, this is like their
Original
This
recipe.
is the sex act. There's multiple people. We're all in the bathtub.
4 people in a bathtub.
Blair gets one.
Yeah.
I can't speak to the 4 people in the bathtub about that, but
Officially, you know that's what everyone's
it is a sex act. Way to go, B.
Good job.
What about a backside unity stall?
I mean, is it either like on the nose or is it like incredibly BMX?
It's incredibly skateboard.
Inline skating.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Could be both. I'm sure there's stalls in both.
No.
You can stall just
Backdoor?
about anything.
No,
with wheels.
no, stall, that's inline.
Backside.
Backside.
Oh, backside.
I was thinking backside skateboard.
Backdoor Unity stall is what Blair heard.
Not really backside either.
It's a
That's
little on the
no-
nose, but maybe like up the backdoor
I
stall.
was like,
It's
are you
fakey.
being...
Yeah, okay. It's fakey for skateboard. It's backside for skateboard.
Fakey.
I was way off.
felt very obvious to me. I'm like,
Backdoor
we're just gonna discuss it as
Just
if
like
it's not obvious.
lubricated backdoor slide.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I think I know the answer.
I'm going to
Did
say
I
it.
say it?
How about a hickory switch?
Oh, hickory switch. This is absolute. Okay, there's sauce involved in this sexual act.
No, there's wood involved.
Well, it's a sex act. one way
Yeah,
or
it's
the other.
sex. It's not hickory barbecue sauce. It's a hickory wood
It's
switch.
a hickory
It's
switch
hickory flavor.
with horrible
No,
connotations.
it's not it's hickory
How
wood.
do you know that?
Because a switch is something that you
It's a
get hit
stick.
with.
A switch is a stick.
How do you not know that?
Yeah, Blair.
I'll show you a hickory switch.
Yeah, you're gonna
Getting
get
beat
switched
with the
later.
hickory.
Break out the hickory.
Make you go out back
We'll
and
see
grab
the
a
sauce
switch.
and the stick and see which one you want.
See, some of these were too easy. Superman seat grab, very sexual, but it's obviously BMX.
The seat grab.
Yeah,
All right, let's end on this one. It can go either way.
motocross actually, bro.
How about a bell dip?
A bell dip?
A bell dip.
Okay, well, dip makes me immediately go to the balls.
Mm,
And like, we're dipping somewhere.
I'm
What
with
do
you.
What are you dipping your balls in?
Your mouth.
Well,
That's a bell dip.
okay, well, the bell, like, what's in my mouth?
The bell.
The dong. Dong.
Both bells.
Well, then, I mean, done and done. Like, turned in our test. Like, we showed our work. I don't know what else you
You're
need.
the bell at the ball. So you're both saying sex act?
Bell at the ball.
Yeah.
You're right, and it's actually a warm bell dip for its completed.
You're just going to leave out a key word like
Pronunciation.
warm?
You didn't ask if I could use it in a sentence.
Blake!
It's
Are there any alternate
Are there
pronunciations?
any other
country of origin. I didn't hear
additional
any of that.
descriptive words that you're leaving out right now that could be used?
Country of origin?
That was fun.
Good times.
Man, I'm just so happy for Biscuit over here.
Oh,
Me
that's so
too.
exciting.
Thanks, you guys.
If little Biscuit could see you now, just talking to his heroes, if Coach would have put me back in at 65, he would have bet things would have been different. Would have been something.
I would have one state.
New Dream Card giveaway over at 8080. In addition to the 15% off you get for using code CRUNCHY, every dollar you spend gets you entered in for a chance to win a brand new Lamborghini plus $60,000 in cash. You do not want to miss out. Nor do you want to forget to check out SomethingCrunchy.com, where you'll find every episode, our links for social media, and the Almighty Crunch Store, where you'll find all kinds of crunchy gear, showing that you are a proud citizen of Crunch Nation. Join us every Friday at 10 o'clock on 97.3 The Rattler, or find us wherever you get your podcasts. This has been another episode of Something Crunchy, and as always,
Don't ever forget to live your crunchiest life.
And be crunchy to one another.
Please don't forget to subscribe, like, follow, and all that crunchy good. All episodes can be found at somethingcrunchy.com and on all podcast platforms. Thank you for listening.
Oh,
That's what I said.
Blair, that's not what you said.
that's not what you said.
Shut up, Blair.